wouldn't make it.
We were broken, shattered, empty.
I carried the war home. The nightmares never left me. God, not like this, please.
Then, everything stopped.
It opened to Isaiah.
Was prophecy unfolding before me? I read it with trembling hands.
The cross never burned. That moment rewrote my heart.
I had seen hell and hope.
This story is only beginning.
The echo of silence and the flame of divine presence. It's incredible how life can turn upside down in an instant, isn't it? 6 minutes. That's all the time life gave me to crumble and then rebuild. My name is John, and the war I survived wasn't just physical, it was a battle for the soul, for a purpose I didn't even know I was searching for. I was just 23 when I was deployed to the middle of nowhere. A combat medic, a kid trying to survive in a world that suddenly turned hostile. Explosions tore through the air, screams echoed, and then silence. A deafening silence, broken only by the ringing in my ears and the taste of dust in my mouth. My fingers trembled over a friend's wound, a wound he wouldn't get up from. God, not like this, I whispered. A prayer I didn't know still existed within me. I wasn't one to pray, not since childhood. But in that hell, something in me raw, shattered, desperate reached out, and he answered. Not with an audible voice, nor with a miracle that would stop the bullets. He answered with presence. I felt it. In the midst of the horror, a sacred feeling enveloped me, like a warmth that embraces you in the bitterest cold. It was there, on that blood-stained ground, that the first seed of a faith I had abandoned began to sprout. The evacuation was a blur. The months that followed were a haze of therapy, sleepless nights, and the haunted gaze of men who had seen too much. Men like me, who now saw a ghost in the mirror, the call of ancient pages and the revelation in modern news. Then, one night, at the bottom of my duffel bag, I found myself. Not myself, but an old Bible, torn pages, worn cover, a relic from a previous life. It opened, almost of its own accord, to the book of Isaiah. The words leaped out at me like a bolt of lightning. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. I collapsed. I cried not because I believed it would happen, but because I desperately wanted to believe it. That one day the bloodshed would cease. That all the horror I had witnessed would have meaning, a divine purpose that transcended the pain. I kept reading, devouring the words of Ezekiel, Daniel, Revelation. And I began to see something that had previously been invisible to me. The names. The lands, Persia, Israel, Gog, Magog. I thought it was just ancient history, relics of a distant past. But then, I turned on the TV. The headline screamed, Iran. Israel, rising tension. Threats? Prophecy? Could it be? That night, My sleep was invaded by a vivid dream of fire. Cities covered in smoke, the smell of destruction in the air. But in the center of it all, amidst the chaos, there was a cross, intact, shining with a supernatural light. I woke up shaken, but with an unwavering certainty. God was still speaking. The war I survived wasn't just physical. It was a spiritual battle. I entered hell and returned with my eyes wide open, seeing the world not as it is, but as He sees it. It wasn't about fear, nor about sides. It was about redemption. About a God who still writes prophecies in newspaper headlines, inviting us to see His plan unfold. A voice crying out in the wilderness of pain. I began to tell my story. In churches, at veteran centers, at youth retreats. Some listened attentively, others with skepticism. But I kept going, because I knew that somewhere, someone was still at war. Someone was still in their own moment of silence, waiting for that presence that transformed me. To that person, perhaps it's you, reading these words now. Listen with your heart. You are not alone. And everything you've been through, it matters. Stay with me, because this story is just beginning. Weeks later, a letter arrived. It was from a soldier's wife. She had watched my video and wrote, "My husband came back, but something of him stayed there." The story, it gave him a reason to cry. "Thank you," I cried, because I knew that pain. I walked through it, and I was pulled out of it by grace. From that moment on, the search became deeper. What did the scriptures say about these nations? About war and peace? About Persia, today's Iran, and its role in prophecy? In Ezekiel 38, I found it again. Persia, listed among the great nations that would rise in the last days, allied with others against Israel. I read with trembling hands. This wasn't politics. This wasn't history. It was prophecy, and it was alive. The ancient struggle wasn't tribal. It was spiritual. Light against darkness. Truth against deception. And between them, soldiers. Men and women who enlisted to defend, to survive. Some would return transformed. Others would never return. I prayed for them that night, all of them. Those on my side and those I never knew, because war doesn't choose its victims. Pain is universal. The power of healing in broken vessels. I remembered what Jesus said. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. I didn't know if I was a peacemaker, but I knew I could be a voice. A voice crying out, not with anger, but with the truth that was revealed to me. I started to speak more, to share my journey, not because I wanted to be heard, but because the message was bigger than me. I spoke to a room full of high school students, their eyes wide, the silence louder than any applause. I spoke to a mother who had lost 2 sons. She hugged me and said, "I thought God had forgotten us." But today, I heard Him again. I sat across from a veteran who hadn't smiled in years. He cried, and I knew that healing had begun. God uses broken vessels, cracked voices, hearts scarred by battle. Perhaps He's using me now. And perhaps He's calling you. If you feel it, if that voice within your soul stirs, even just a little, don't run. Divine purpose and the immortal call. Sign up for Glorify Forever, because we are not alone in this war. And the story is far from over. He is still speaking. Through the returning soldiers, through the scriptures unfolding in the headlines, through the suffering that shapes us. Through you. Through us, Glorify Forever.